Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 323 of the Civil Gore Podcast. I'm your host, Tim.
And this is Brian, and we have it's probably going to be a shorter episode this today. I have a little bit of travel the next 2 days, and so basically I forgot to send Tim his Tubi trap, and so we're recording early for a change, which is usually the opposite. Usually we're scrambling like the night before, if anything. So this is a good thing. We're actually smart. We're recording early to make sure we stick with our non needed like weeks off for the podcast. So, but we still have a good thing because this is a movie I wanted to actually I was excited for it and I forgot it kind of came out because originally I think we were we were trying to set up a screener and interview thing back when it first was announced, but they had Shudder couldn't pull through, I think, on the whole media day. Something happened, so they moved it around, and so we never got it. And then I kind of forgot it came out. So I'm glad it is, and that is Bloody X Wound. So it'd be fun to talk about, though.
Yeah, definitely. We have just a little tiny first chop, so we'll get right into it. This is our first chop. All right, Brian, I just had two little things here on the first chop. One is I've been watching the series TEACUP on Hulu. I think it's on Hulu, which came out last year, I believe, when all that kind of run of horror series was coming out, like Grotesquerie and
Yeah.
and all those were coming out, and I just didn't get around to watching this one, so I've started watching it. What I didn't realize is it's based off a book called Stinger by Robert McCammon. Robert McCammon's one of my favorite horror authors. He also did one of my favorite books of all time, which was called A Boy's Life, which was not strictly horror, but it was very horror adjacent. It was very reminiscent of Stand By Me.
That's not This Boy's Life, right? With Robert De Niro?
No, not this. A Boy's Life.
Okay.
And then he also wrote, if you guys are fans of The Stand, there's one other novel that is often talked about in the same breath as The Stand, and that is Robert McCammon's Swan Song, which is like a really epic post-apocalyptic novel that's always been very heavily compared to The Stand. So he's really one of my favorite horror authors, and this was based off one of his books that I read eons ago, forgot completely about, and had no clue I couldn't even remember anything of what it was about. And Teacup is about these people that are basically trapped on this ranch, and there's some sort of alien presence effect going on, and they don't know quite what's going on. I'm only about halfway through the season, so I don't know what's going on either, but I will say there's a lot of really good gore in this show.
Nice.
The show itself is not great. It's a little, I mean, even though the episodes are only like 30 minutes and some change, they feel longer than they are, which is never a good sign. So I can't say that it's actually a great series unless it really picks up in the later half of the season. But if you do like really good gore effects, they have some really cool things in here, so maybe worth watching just for that.
Yeah, two quick things about TeaCup. Actually, I have some posters like that I have saved for our prize cause, which we still owe our horror challenge people. But once we left Twitter, I kind of got lost track of. So I got to dig in there and contact those people because we have their emails. So I think I have two posters and two coasters actually that they gave me. I got it for Horror Vibes. They were giving them out. So I grabbed
Cool.
some for our prize closet. So we'll have to coordinate that 'cause some people get those. And also it's not on Hulu. It's on your favorite, Tim, The Cock.
Oh, it's on The Cock. Sorry, guys.
It's on The Cock.
It's on The Cock, not Hulu.
Sorry.
I should have known.
Yeah.
Anything on The Cock, I should definitely know.
And sorry, that's our little in joke we have. We're children, and
We're 12 years old mentally, yes.
Yes, and so we always laugh, and that's our nickname for it. And it's kind of stuck, and fortunately for Peacock, that's what it's stuck with in our minds forever.
So
now.
you can find Teacup on your cock if you're so inclined.
If you subscribe to your cock, I don't know. It could be.
I've got ads on my cock. It's crazy.
Same with me. I know. It's like you wouldn't think that you'd have to pay and then still have to watch ads on your cock, but that's just what it is. So.
The second thing here, I only put this on because it ties in very directly, or maybe indirectly, with the movie we're covering today. and it's called Out Are the Lights. This is a novel by Richard Lehman. Richard Lehman was a horror author. He's since passed away, but he was big in the late 70s, 80s, very pulp horror. I mean, those old paperbacks from hell, the old horror
Oh, yeah.
novels, the stuff like that. He wrote stuff like that. And I've always been a big Richard Lehman fan, although his stuff is so grungy and it's definitely a guilty pleasure. Like his it's very
He's like
it's
the
ve
Danielle Steele of horror, I guess.
probably, yeah, you might could say that. I mean, he's pretty well respected actually in the horror community, but his stuff, he has some sleazy books. I mean, just full of like gratuitous sex, gratuitous violence. I mean, they're very sleazy. These are not horror literature by any stretch of the imagination. And I freely admit that they are a guilty pleasure because they're like the most sleazy, misogynistic, sex fueled 80s slasher movies you've ever seen in book form. So if you're into that kind of thing, you probably
Nice.
like Richard Lehman. Now, when he got later in his career, he actually ended up writing some novels that were pretty well critically reviewed and acclaimed. Like The Traveling Vampire Show is one of them. That were pretty kind of more well respected. But in his early days, he was really churning out the garbage trash stuff. And so I got my hands on a bunch of his in ebook form. I got my hands on a bunch of his early novels, and one of his is called Out Are the Lights. Not greatly written. It's not written very well. This is what, like I said, this is only like his second, third novel. It was very early on in his career, but it had an interesting premise in which there's like this. It intercuts with one main narrative, and then it intercuts with these like little vignettes in between chapters in which there's this old rundown movie theater that shows these horror marathons, and they star these some of the films during the marathon are by this character named Shrek, not Shrek the ogre from the
What
swamp,
about
but
Max Shrek?
it's sort of like Max Shrek. Yeah, that's how it was spelled. This is obviously before
Yeah.
Mike Myers Shrek. And he what people don't know when they're watching the movie is that he's actually killed. These are actually snuff films. He's actually killing the people, and then
I
he
see
makes
the
a horror movie.
comparison.
Then he makes
Yeah.
a horror movie out of it, and then people watch it and they think it's just the latest in his horror, you know, his latest horror production, not knowing that it's real. So that's why I thought it was a perfect match with this. I mean, it's entertaining. It's a very quick read. It's not well written. It's kind of sleazy, not as sleazy as some of his other stuff. But if you have never checked out Richard Lehman, like try one of his books. They're pretty trashy, and
Well, can I ask you a question though? How like are they like very wordy? Or are they at least written in layman's terms for the average
they're
reader?
definitely in layman's terms. But
Okay.
and believe
You
me,
knew that was coming.
he's
You
got his
had to
own set of
know.
terms.
Yeah, you had to know that was brewing in my head
Yes.
as you were saying all this, Tim. Right?
He's definitely got a style. We'll put it
Okay.
that way.
But I have news for you. You have me interested in this one. You've piqued my interest in reading this one, Out of the Lights, because
Yeah.
that sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, these are super. I think I read this one actually in a day.
Oh wow.
That's how short and fast and like cheaply written these are.
I could
Um,
find it somewhere, like the book copy
I can
somewhere, like
send
on
you
Barnes
the
and Noble.
I can send you an ebook copy of it. I've got
Oh,
it
okay.
on ebooks. That's it's like it's so long out of print that I don't think there's anybody like copy protecting these anymore. So yeah, if you've never read any Richard Lehman, like check one of his books out. They're all kind of the same level of sleaze. He
Okay,
did
so
have one series called oh my gosh, Beast House, which is a very interesting premise. And he did several books around Beast House, and Beast House was like this house where all these murders happened, and then you find out there was like this monster, sort of like maybe kind of like the monster in Funhouse, like just this weird deformed wolf, half wolf thing. I don't know. And it kind of runs through several novels. That's kind of a cool series, but he's got some entertaining books if you can handle the gratuitousness of everything in there.
so it's funny you said. So surprisingly, Amazon actually has the Richard Lehman Collection, Volume 2, which has The Woods Are Dark and Out Are the Lights in one book for $13.99. It's
Oh,
in
the woods
paperback.
are what was the woods one?
The Woods Are Dark.
Oh, yeah, that was another early one he did. His daughter actually revised it and recompleted it. I'm not sure if that's the version, but I read that one not too long ago. That one's about like this cult that lives in the woods.
Yeah, because they
And
also
so
and it
they're both super trashy. You should get them.
yeah, no, and it's funny because they also have just the Out of the Lights one in paperback, but that's 15.99.
Yeah,
So charge
no,
you more just to
the
get one.
the Woods Are Dark is good too, but it's even sleazier than Outer the
Yeah,
Lights.
but I
So
don't know. I mean, I may be interested to grabbing one of these just to see, but
yeah, yeah.
we'll
I
we'll
mean,
see what happens.
and then like my wife reads all these like what they fantasy. I call it fantasy smut. Like these novels about like shape shifting guys, and it's like softcore, like almost pornographic. But women read all this like like rove. What do they
What was
call
that
it?
one
Like,
they did what was the one, like, 60 Things of Grey? What was that one?
yeah, 50 Shades of Grey, like
50 Shades of
romanticy
Grey.
stuff. So yeah, this is kind of like the guy version of that, I guess you
Ah,
could say.
so there's a lot of boobs in it or
A
something? Is
lot of,
that
lot of
just
got lots of boobs, lots of blood.
boobs?
Yeah,
Ah,
lots of
okay,
boobs.
boobs, so it's almost the 3 Bs. There you go.
Yeah, but I will say, I will warn you, if you're sensitive, these were written in the 80s. They are not
Oh,
politically
so yeah.
correct at
Yeah, I
all.
as nothing
So
was. It's so
yeah,
funny that that decade is still so fondly like, it's such an it's gotta be one of the most unusual decades because it's so, like, looked upon fondly and problematically equally.
I know, exactly. I know.
It's
Yeah,
the, like, 50s, it's like, everyone loves it, but then they'll say, "But, it was the '80s." So it's a little problematic, but they allow it. They're like it's, like, problematic, and they'll acknowledge it, but they'll still accept it because it was the '80s. Like, the '80s has some I tell you, I don't know what it is. It's just maybe it's because our age, and we're, like, just hearing
it's
it, but
because
I
we
feel
have
like
to
even
accept
people
it because it was like our golden years, and we have to overlook
yeah.
the problems
But,
because
like,
it's all
even
we
peop
have.
but you notice how, like, young people are, like, flocking towards this stuff, and they love it. And so it's weird. It's gotta be like, it's gonna go down, like, years from now, like, like, when we're long gone, probably, people look back, they'll say, "Remember those '80s?" And by that point, it might be which ones? Like, the
Yeah,
2080s or 1980s?
yeah.
No, 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 1980s. Remember that? So
I know 90s nostalgia is coming up back really strong now too.
well, yeah, because look, with the Scream is resurgence, and of course you knew, like, you're gonna put out enough Scream movies, you're gonna get, you're gonna get like, I know what you did last summer is gonna be like, excuse me, we're still here too, so
Yes.
now we're gonna put out a movie and bring back the original cast
Yep.
that's still alive in the universe, and then now with Buffy, TV series
Buffy's
reboot,
coming
yeah,
back.
so
Yeah.
so
No,
90s is having its own little research, and look, that shows how David Weiner is on the cutting edge of nostalgia because his 90s documentaries are coming out now too,
yeah.
so I
Yeah.
like
I
to
mean,
think it's part him that he does this. He's got a magical touch with this stuff. I think he knows he knows the pulse of the people at any time.
oh, he does. I mean, well, anybody that's in like that deep into pop culture has to have their finger on the pulse of what's going on because you're so immersed in it, and that's
Yeah,
what you're following. That's what you're interested in. So that's what other people like you are interested in. So
exactly.
anyway, so that's all I had for my first shop. I had the series Teacup, and then this Out of the Lights by Richard Lehman. If you haven't read any of his stuff, it's kind of crazy. But not I haven't yet, Brian. I haven't yet dared dive into some of the like extreme. Have you heard of these like extreme horror books? Like
No.
I've seen them on YouTube. Like the booktubers. There's whole channels devoted to these. There are some like super extreme. Think of like a Serbian film in book form, like
Oh my god.
extreme horror books. And I've seen YouTubers review some of these, and they're supposed to like really like super gory, very like weird, deep, twisted stuff. I have not I haven't gotten up the nerve to try one of those yet, but at some point I may have
Yeah.
to for the podcast.
Yeah, you have to, Tim. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
for the
you have to.
podcast.
Yeah.
I'll
So
go look and see what all the YouTubers are saying is like the best one, and
yeah, find the
I'll
one
try to
like
get
the
it.
gateway one. You know how you always look at gateway horror for kids?
Yeah,
Find gateway this kind of thing for us
and then
and
then
report
I'll
back.
review it on here. Okay,
Yeah.
that's my new challenge. That's my assignment. I'm gonna do that just
Tim
for
can
you
take on
guys.
these things. Tim's out there doing the dirty work for the podcast
Exactly.
always.
All right. Well, let's get into our main feature. This is Bloody Axe Wound, which came out last year, and it's directed by Matthew John Lawrence. starring Chet Siegel as Shirlene, David Littleton as Mark, Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Butch Slater, Mickey Breitenstein, I like that name, as Sunt Blade Cut.
It's supposed to be stunt. I'm
Oh,
sorry, I made a
Stunt
typo.
Blade Cut. Sunt.
I
I thought
realized
his name
that.
was Sunt.
No, it's
Stunt Blade
stunt
Cut.
blade cut, yeah.
Sari Arambulu as Abby Blade Cut. Sorry, Matt Hopkins as Mackenzie. Roger Blade Cut as is played by Billy
Oh, I
Burke.
have that backwards, sorry.
Yeah,
What
I
is
knew
wrong
that
with
one
me?
though. I knew Billy Burke.
Yeah.
Billy Burke plays Roger Blade Cut. Eddie Levy plays Glenn. Angel Theory plays Izzy. Margot Anderson Song as Patty, and Molly Brown as Sam Crane. The synopsis here is Abby Bladecut is a teenager torn between the macabre traditions of her family's bloody trade and the tender stirrings of her first crush. In the small town of Clover Falls, Abby's father, Roger Bladecut, has built an infamous legacy by capturing real-life killings on tape and selling them to eager customers. But as Abby delves deeper into the grisly family business, she begins to wonder if it's time to take the family tradition in a new direction. All right. Well, I knew nothing about this going in. Absolutely nothing. Because Brian and I decided on this movie like really last minute, as in today. And the premise is super interesting. I really like the premise in which you kind of take, it's kind of a meta, I guess maybe a little bit of a meta premise.
It's very it's very unusual, and I think when you hear our full discussion, it's like I really loved it, but like I do have some issues with it, some weird like things, and I'll go into that after.
What's neat about it is it kind of takes the premise of like, let's just call the Blade Cut for what he is. He's basically a Jason clone. And it would be like if Jason had a daughter and Jason can resurrect, and he, if he dies, he can resurrect. He's Jason for all intents and purposes. But when he goes out and kills, somehow this all gets filmed and turned into horror movies, and then they end up renting these horror movies from their video store. So really cool premise.
Conflict of interest to me, I think. I don't know.
It is a bit of conflict of interest. And I really like too that it was a daughter father thing and not a son father, because it gives it the opportunity to say there's a statement in here you sort of about why can't there be a girl slasher? I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of what you're kind of delving into, is like, why does it have to be a male villain in these movies? It's a slasher, and why couldn't it be a female? And there's comments in here about, well, the female slasher just wouldn't be scary enough, and even her
Yeah, I mean,
dad.
Scream did it a couple times, and
Yeah,
so it's not like it hasn't been done before.
but even her dad questions her ability to basically take over the quote unquote family business.
And actually, I will say one of my favorite '80s slashers had a female. Oh, wait, I guess it's a spoiler if you haven't seen it now, but Curtains had a female slasher in it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and that was back in the '80s when, well, I mean, let's be fair, '80s, everyone could be a slasher at that point. I'm surprised we haven't seen a pet
But you
walking
know
around.
what? I
But
find that the 80s, we always talk about how, the 90s started reinventing the slasher stuff. The early 80s, there were a wide variety. Like they tried everything, and like everything had already been done in the early 80s. It wasn't until you got the big franchises like Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, and Friday the 13th that these things started to become clones of themselves. Before that,
yeah,
I mean, you look at stuff like Tourist Trap and Curtains and like all there, and Terror Train, and I mean, all of these were doing really cool, neat things with who the killer was and the mystery
yeah,
around it, and all, like there was a lot of variety there, and they were doing interesting twists like all over the place. It was the franchises that made it seem like, oh, all slashers are the same. If you go
yeah.
back
That's
and
actually a
really
really
look,
good point.
yeah,
Yeah. Because, yeah, I mean, and, like, I mean, and also a lot of people remember it as like, oh, everything was a holiday because, some of the big ones like My Bloody Valentine, Halloween, had like names of like dates, like of or holidays or something, like, but it's like if you do look back, like there's so many '80s slashers, and that's why David's documentary, the In Search of for the '80s, was like literally needed 3 full 6-hour documentaries because that's how much there were, because it was easy to churn out. And could you say at some point, was it a detriment to it at one point? Maybe, because it might have veered it off track a little, and then you tend not to appreciate some of the true gems that were back then. but that's why his documentary is good because it gives you a good look at it and it shows you. Like, some people say, "Oh, this was a copy of this." I was like, "Well, yeah, the thing you're all upset about that got copied is already a copy of this."
Yes, exactly.
So, why don't you, do a little horror history searching there, and then you'll see that, like, what you think that you behold as like this sacred thing is already a copy of something like this. I mean, look at like Black Christmas, the original. I mean, back then, and it's like there were so many
Go
cool,
back
like,
and
yeah,
go find the movies that never became series, that never became IPs,
right,
and you'll find, like, a huge variety and neat twists that weren't done. I mean, look at Sleepaway Camp.
right,
Like, what a
yeah. I mean,
I mean, stuff like that, they were doing crazy stuff way before the franchises took over and kinda just homogenized everything, so
and Sleepaway Camp, that's something that could never be replicated again. That kind of twist back then because you didn't expect the twist, you didn't expect the visual along with the twist. And if you haven't seen Sleepaway Camp and you don't know what we're talking about, then I don't know how you're obviously listening to a horror podcast because it's like you just go to one horror con and you should learn about Sleepaway Camp
Yep.
from Felissa Rose, who still now look at her, right? She was the star of that movie, and today she's bigger than ever. And, like, one of the most beloved people in the horror community, and if like, we've said it a million times, you meet her one time, she, like, treats you like family, she's, like, the best. So it's like, and that and back then, you I don't know if people hold those things in as high as regard as they should. Some of the newer fans into the genre, they really need to go back. Like, like Tim and I like to go back to, like, before our time to really find some gems. And same thing with, people now getting into horror. Look back at some of those 80s and 70s horror films because you'll be wowed and you'll see the inspiration to some of the films you love today, way back
Yeah,
then.
and that's the reason a lot of people don't, uh a lot of times don't agree with critics, and it's because they're coming at it from a different point of view, because a critic is somebody who knows, and I'm not saying all critics are, the best, or their opinion matters more. I'm just saying that a lot of times critics have seen 10 times the number of movies you've seen. That's their job. They've
Yeah.
watched everything. So when they see this new movie come out that you think is fantastic, "Oh my god, this is the greatest thing, it's so original." And they go, "Well, actually, this is not original because I saw it, seen it 3 times done before," because they've watched so many movies, and to them, they're looking at it from a different frame of reference than you are, and we're like, "Ah, critics don't know what they're talking about." Sometimes they do know what they're talking about,
Yeah.
because they have such a deep film history, but it's kind of to their detriment of enjoying the movie because, they have, for lack of a better term, they have a lot of baggage behind that. So, but I think with, as far as horror goes, going back and looking at some of that early '80s stuff before the franchises, before all the big stuff, you just, oh man, there's so many good gems out there. I could just list gem after gem
Yeah.
after gem of early '80s slashers that you need to see that are not related to Freddy, Jason, or Michael Myers or Chucky.
Yeah. What was that one we watched? Remember what was it, Edge of the Axe that we was so interesting? Remember we had never seen it, but we decided to watch it we did
Yeah.
what was that? Oh my god, I forgot the name of the thing we did. What was the comparison where we take 2 movies that are similar?
Oh god, yeah, we did it so few times, we don't even remember the
Oh my
name of
god, I
the
forgot the
segment.
name of it. It was like something with wrestling. It had a wrestling theme to like
Yeah,
something
but
name to
anyway,
it, but
we'll have to get back to that because I did like
yeah,
that segment, but
because those were fun. Yeah, it was like, yeah, and it was like where we take like 2 movies that were similar and kind of compare them. And like I remember we'd like discover that's how we discovered Edge of the Axe, which I'm like, oh, I've always seen this, but I never watched it. And now I see why people talk about it because it was actually entertaining. So it's like, yeah,
oh, there's so
but
much good stuff.
so
Yeah.
this one, it's funny. So interesting. So first off, I want to say I thoroughly enjoyed this movie, though, even when I was gonna have some criticisms with it. I really enjoyed it. I thought it had some, some funny sequence. It had some over the top gore that comes out of nowhere in
Yes, it
some
does have
points.
some over the top gore, which is
Over the top
great.
gore. It has some great characters, some really, really good characters, which you almost want more of. And that's where, like, and this is something rare that I'll say. 'cause usually I kinda like my movies, like, right around the 90-minute point, when it's, like, something like this. Like, Star Wars movies, I don't care if they're 9 hours, but, thi like, a movie like this, I'm like, these kinda movies, like, I'm kinda usually my average is around, 1 hour, 30 minutes, maybe 1 hour, 40 minutes. This was at 83 minutes, so this was short, and this is a movie that could have probably I think could have used an extra, like, 10
Yes.
minutes.
I'm glad you said that because I was thinking the same exact thing. This movie, I'm usually critical of independent films, particularly because they drag on and on and on. The the director does not know how to edit the thing down to a reasonable length. This movie, I think, suffers from the opposite problem. I think it was too fast paced. I
Yeah,
think it
right?
was so fast paced that at times I didn't know what the hell was going on because there's a lot of stuff that happens off camera. It jumps very quickly, like the twists come very quick. The characters come in and out very quick. There were times, I mean, I probably had to rewind this movie. There were 3 or 4 times where I had to just rewind and go,
I
"What did
did
I
the
just
same.
see?"
I did the same thing. I thought, "Oh, maybe this is me, I'm tired and I'm missing something," but no, and let me tell you, I read a review afterwards because I wanted to say, like, there was something that's been was irking me about it, and I could like, not irking, that's not the right word, just something that was weird going in the back of my head through this, and I couldn't figure out what it was, and I read a review on and explained exactly what you and I just said, kinda like it was all over. They said the characters, as cool as they were, you wanted a little bit more of each of them, and they said they really didn't explain some major plot points, which I'm also on the boat where sometimes you don't have to explain everything. But in this, I felt like what? Like they never explained really why, like who was filming these movies and who was like instruct because it was like this other thing that was instructing them what to, but they didn't really say who it was. And I think that if like in a movie this short like that, it stands out more. If it was a little bit longer and you develop more characters, you could say, "Oh, okay, well they're developing the characters. Maybe that's why they didn't need this." But I feel like when it's so short and so fast paced it actually in a weird way, it brings out more of the things that are missing,
Yeah,
like that.
I felt like almost every scene was rushed, and I don't know the reasons behind it. I don't know whether it was intentional or due to budget or what, but I just felt like almost every scene when I was expecting some bit of character development or something, it was rushed by another crazy plot point thing coming at you. And then I would and I was the same way, Brian. I was sitting there, I was like, Brian's gonna kill me because I don't think I like this movie as much as he's probably gonna like it because I felt like I was the problem. I felt like, well, I must be just distracted today and I'm not into it and I'm missing stuff. And I'm glad to hear you say that you were missing stuff too, because now I know I'm not crazy. Because
Yeah,
I'm
no,
sitting here going, am I just dense or I'm just not understanding? I'm not following the sequence of events that are going on right in front of me. But yeah, it was just it was too frenetic a pace and too much trying to be packed in. I think the ideas were really good. I think the characters are
yeah,
really good. I think the humor and the balance of humor and horror was good. I think there's a really good movie in here.
yeah.
I just can't help but think it was like it was rushed, and at times I was just completely bewildered as to what was going on.
And the thing is, even with all that, I still, like, had fun watching, like, I enjoyed watching it, and I loved the characters, like, I thought, like, the Abby character was great, and same with,
The
Sam,
performances were great.
yeah, and the role everything, all like that it was like one of these things where, like, the sum of the s what's that the word the thing that the it wasn't as good
The
as the sum of
parts,
its parts?
yeah, yeah,
That
exactly.
whatever that buzz phrase is that Tim and I always seem to butcher when we bring it up. But, like, I loved all the characters, and I wanted to see more of them. But you know what I think it is too that was awkward? You kinda come into this movie at a time where there's a lot of already developed in there, and I feel like, everyone in the movie is, like, well aware of the thing, but the audience, like, there's not enough to kind of bring the audience to bring in with everybody else to feel connected in that way with the characters. Like, and that like, here's a like, perfect example, right? Like, so, they kinda start it right off the bat, and they kinda give you this quick so she's like voiceover, she's kind of telling a main character, Abby is telling you all this stuff real quick, and it goes right into it, and then there's, like, this one line she says where it seems like it's just something like, "Oh, this town is used to all this." But, like, why are people just going out there? If they're so used to people just getting off left and right, why are they just living so carefree? Like, that's the part I don't get. I mean, was that maybe it was a commentary on something and it was, again, with so many things going on so fast that it was lost on me? But
Yeah,
and
well,
I love the relationship that, sequence where she, like, falls for someone so fast, and I like that they made it, they didn't, like, make it the typical, "Oh, I'm in love with the football player." No, it was another, it was a nice same-sex romance that went on, and, it wasn't gratuitous in any way, it was just a nice, heartfelt romance. That's the part they seem to develop pretty well, just, again, fast, but still it was developed well.
even that was a perfect example, that right there. So that romance. So there's a sequence where Abby comes into, and I can't, what was the girl's name that was the romantic interest?
Oh, Sam.
Sam. So she comes into Sam's room, and there's like this little moment where she's like, "Oh, you want to fool around?" And I'm not saying I wanted to watch them fool around. I'm just saying that that was a moment where I felt like you could have deepened their relationship.
Yeah,
But as
yeah.
soon as that happens and they start kind of like making out or whatever, it like instantly gets interrupted by something else. And it's one of those things where I was like, dang, there was an opportunity to deepen this whole relationship thing. And all of a sudden I'm just blindsided once again by something else coming along. And I'm like, it's so fast. There's never a chance to catch your breath and kind of develop these relationships between characters. And it's a shame because, like Brian said, they're really good characters. It's a really good idea. God, this movie could so use an extra half an hour just to have
Yeah,
an
and
extra. I'm not talking about an hour. I'm just talking about just an extra
yeah,
minute or so, so that you're not just
or
completely
scene, yeah,
blind
like
per scene, just to not just so you're not so blindsided, or an extra minute at the beginning to show maybe a couple of different excursions with her and her dad to kind of more finely ingrain what the business is, kinda thing, you know
yeah,
what I mean?
and what yeah, and I mean, the one character at least they gave a lot of screen time for too was that funny friend, the one that worked
Yeah,
next door, and he was hilarious in it. That guy, and he pretends to be and I love how there's, like, little call outs to the stereotype thing, like, she's like, "You don't smell like a drunk. You don't smell like a guy that's been laying in the woods," like the typical warning, like, the
and I
crazy
always loved
Ralph
his
of
his really
Crystal
bad
Lake.
facial hair disguises.
Yeah, like, and that guy was brilliant, and that guy I loved that there was a lot of him in it. So at
Yeah,
least they saved him, but also the character of, oh my god, what's her name? Izzy, it was played by Angel Theory, who she was that really cool dancer, and, and, like, they, like, started to develop her like she was gonna be this big force in the thing, and then they kinda, like they made her, dropped into, like, a minor plot point, like, this decision, but they didn't do it effectively enough that, like, like, she basically, like, is a f sh I mean, a little spoiler alert here, she tries to that's one of her victims, but she doesn't have the heart to finish her off, and so then she finds out that she's still alive, and she goes in to kinda save her, but then her dad comes in and takes over, and then, like, she's gone again, and I'm like, they made this whole setup for, like, this character that you think is gonna be a big character in it to really be just a minor plot point shift kinda thing. And then the other character I like was the girl with the I think her name was, Patty in Margot Anderson's
yeah,
song, where she was like the little the little nerdy girl that kinda was like kinda giving her tips about the school. I really liked her, and I felt like wasn't in enough. They kinda started her off, then she disappeared for a while, then came back, like, when they all decided to go to the camp. And it's just like, there was so much here that just if it was just, like, tweaked and added a couple little things, I think this movie would have been, like, literally could be up for one of the best of the year. Like, that's how close it was, I think.
yeah. Yeah, it was frustrating because, like, this movie so depends on this idea. Well, there's a couple of big ideas in here that should have been explored more. Like number one, a girl slasher. Can a daughter follow in her dad's footsteps? That was an interesting idea to me. Uh, the idea of a slasher getting too close and attached to their victims. That's a cool idea. That's a good idea that needs to be
Yeah.
explored. But this movie never has time to explore any of it. So it's trotting out these huge ideas, and you never have time to appreciate any of them because it's always just on to the next thing, which is frustrating. But I will say, still, it's an entertaining movie to watch. I was thoroughly entertained. It's a very quick watch, obviously. It's fun, it's funny, it's got some great gore. There's nothing you're not wasting your time watching it by any
No, not
stretch
at
of
all.
imagination. It's just eh, kind of my criticism is out of love, not out of,
Yeah.
you know, hate.
Yeah, same thing, and I'm gonna say, like, if a movie's main criticisms are that there wasn't enough of what we liked, that gives you at least a director to me that gives encouragement and said, "Okay, so obviously I have something. I just need to now kinda take this info in, and if I think that something's good, I have to." Like, I don't know, he's a director I would have loved to talk to and say, because maybe there's a reason he did it, and maybe there's a specific reason why he made these quick,
You know what
movements
it
in this
reminds me
movie.
you know what it reminds me of, Brian, is I'm taking guitar lessons now, and I tend to play I have no sense of timing. Like, I'm terrible at timing, which is ironic that Anna plays the drums because she never got her timing from me. But my guitar teacher is always complaining. He's like, "Tim, you're going too fast. You're going too fast. Like, you're trying to play too fast." And it's because, um, it's like when I know how to play it, I wanna play it quickly and I wanna get it over with, and I'm trying to, I'm trying to outrun my mistakes almost. And it's just a natural thing that I've had to just stop and slow down and say, "Tim, slow down. Take a deep breath, slow down." And, my guitar teacher always said, "Well, I'd rather you be too fast than too slow, because if you're going too fast, it means you know how to play it and you can adjust. But if you're going too slow, that means you haven't got the technique down yet." But it kinda reminded me of that when I saw this. I was like, I wish that director would just take a deep breath and slow down. I think he's so good at what he's doing, he's just rushing everything. And, I don't know, maybe that's just what it reminded me of, is somebody that just rushes. Maybe that's their personality, but,
You know what?
yeah, it would have
He
been
did that.
definitely benefited from a little bit of a deep breath.
Yeah, so he did the movie Uncle Peckerhead, which I've heard about, that I
I
kinda
haven't
wanted to
seen that one
see,
yet,
and
I
which is
think. Yeah.
it's on your favorite, it's on Fawsome, Tim. It's on Fawsome,
Awesome.
Plex, Roku, Prime, Tubi, so it's on all of them. And
Yeah,
this
I
is one
definitely
I
heard of
kinda
that
wanted
movie.
to see too, and, oh, it's funny, Chet Siegel, the one that is in this, at one point, is in, that
Actually,
one too.
I think I watched Uncle Peckerhead, actually.
That's the one with the punk band. I've heard some good things about it, so I wanna see that and see if that's the same kind of, like, has the same frenetic pace, so maybe he's just one of these directors that like but maybe you're right, maybe he, like, didn't have the confidence enough in this story, so he kind of, like, and again, he didn't unless he edited it, like, but I would assume he saw the overseeing of this and had to have the final stamp on
So
it,
there are
but
directors that are just, like, super, like, "Blah, blah, 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 MTV, blah, blah, blah." I mean, just
yeah.
crazy fast edit that I mean, and there's a place for that. It's just, this movie, I felt like there were some really good ideas that just didn't benefit from that kind of pacing.
And the characters and performances were so good, so you wanted more. You didn't want it to there was a point where I'm like, "Oh my god, it's almost over." I said, What?" I said, "Why do I feel like I missed something in here?" Like, I feel like I got like a 13 to 14-minute chunk was taken out of this
I will
movie or
say,
something.
even, and this is not a spoiler, but even one of the big twists at the end is so fast, if you blink, you might miss it, kinda thing.
Yeah, it's like, and I'm like, "What the." It's so like, yeah, it's like, and yeah, he's a director. This John Lawrence is someone I'm really upset that they never got that media day together from Shudder, because I would have loved to talk to him after seeing this, because I probably would have had the same questions for I would have been like, "So, this goes really fast paced. Was that intentional? Like, what was your reasoning behind the frenetic pace of this? Was it, because he might have had a statement that so maybe it's so like highbrow that we missed everyone missed it. I don't know. It's I'd like to see more reviews come out on it. Like, I don't trust the reviews on Shudder itself, because
Yeah.
we've discussed that. I think people go on there to, like, hate. I don't even know what
No,
they want on there.
I read some reviews because I wanted to see if I was going crazy, but I read some reviews, and a lot of reviews liked it, but had the same thing we did. It was like, it's messy.
Yeah.
I like it, but it's messy, and that's kind of where I kind of put it. So I
You know
hope.
what I feel like? You know what a good metaphor of this is? It's like when you put together a puzzle, right? And you do this whole puzzle, and there's just one piece that you've lost somewhere and you can't find it, but you look at it and you still get the whole picture of the puzzle, and you're like, "That still looks like a nice picture. It's still good. It's a nice picture." But I only just wish I had that little ass piece to finish it. Kinda like that's kinda what it's like. It's like there was just a little something missing, and I think what it was is it needed a little more time to, like, as you said, to take those really good ideas and flesh them out, no pun intended, a little further, you know?
All right. Well, I guess we've explained ourselves enough, but
Yeah, but I will say I recommend it full-heartedly, like, wholeheartedly. I think it's a fun movie. I think you're not gonna not enjoy it. Like,
No,
and
no,
the
no, no.
like I
You're
said,
going to
I
enjoy
would
it.
we're critiquing it because, like, that's our podcast. We're here to review stuff. I want to be honest. I don't want to just like I want to point out the things, but I also want to say I actually really enjoyed it, and it's like I want to enjoy more. That's its biggest criticism to me.
Well,
So
and our criticism is purely constructive. It's not
right,
mean
yeah,
spirited. It's
no,
out of a
because
place of
it's
wanting to make it better. So,
yeah.
yeah, I definitely encourage you guys to check it out and let us know what you thought. So Brian, what is our beer pairing
No,
today?
I have an interesting one, and you're gonna laugh when I say the brewery because I'm gonna say it in the way that I know you want me to say it, and that's Axe Edge Brewery at a Buxton Brewery at a Buxton, United Kingdom. I'm sure it's just Buxton, but
Speaking
Tim and
of
I is big
speaking
fans of that.
of
Yeah,
Buxton,
yeah.
we actually there's a place at the mall, our food court, and it's PEIWEI Asian Express, and I love it.
EY?
But it's actually I looked it up. The exact pronunciation is Payway, but I always
Anyway,
say
okay.
Peewee, and I'm like, and me and Anna love this place. It's just this little Chinese place, and you get 3-item combo and the
Oh, I
noodles and
love
rice.
that,
So
yeah, it's
I
like a
oh
Panda Express, but
yes,
yeah.
I love it. I love this place, and it's got I guess it's a man and his wife, because he's always there and she's always there, and I love them to death, and they're super nice and they're super friendly, and they'll always hook you up with a little bit extra. And
I was like my buddy at Mr. Chow's. Oh, and that place is
yeah,
gone.
they're just so great, and I love going. So me and Anna just have become huge fans of this place, and I'm like, so today I found out we were going to the mall, and I was like, Anna, we're going to the mall, and it's around dinner time, so you know what time it is? The Pee Wee Express, all aboard! So we we always get excited. We call it the Pee Wee Express. So I think it's Payway, but
Yeah.
in my mind, it'll
I
always be Pee Wee.
It always reminds me too, like that one of the Pee-wee, episode, remember when he's like he was remember like Terry the pterodactyl? And he
Yes.
goes, "Hey there, Pateri," and or like the bully kid goes, "Hey there, Pateri," and then Pee-wee's like, "The P is silent," and so the bully goes, "Okay, Pee-wee," and so so I always crack up at that one. So anytime I hear that, it always reminds me of that when we say Pee-wee. So remember
Oh,
that little bully? What was his name? That little like bully puppet
I
thing that
know what
like
you're talking about. Like, was it
yeah,
Randy?
right, yeah, I think you're right. I think it was Randy,
Randy.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Because
that
then he
was
was
great.
like such a wise ass all the time, and when you think about it, that's like that humor is so simple and stupid that it's like, but for some reason, every time I see that episode, I would like be hysterical. I don't know why. It's just so stupidly
If you
funny.
guys have never seen Pee Wee's Christmas special, Pee Wee's Playhouse
Oh my
Christmas special,
god,
it
yeah.
is a absolute bona fide classic.
Yeah, well,
Good.
I when I first encountered Pee-wee, it was that HBO special. If you've never seen that, that's
Yes.
like that is like
Oh,
the that's and it's adult like oriented. It's definitely not kid show friendly, but it has some of the famous and that's why that Mr. Bungle group named itself after Mr. Bungle, that little like short film they put in there.
yeah.
So
Yeah, that was I remember watching that, staying up late, watching that on HBO, like, when I wasn't supposed to
yeah,
kinda thing.
and that was Phil Hartman was is Captain Carl back then, and it's
Yeah.
the
Oh, it was
originals. It's
great.
the
But it was
zombie and it
definitely
had
very
everything.
adult. That's what was cool about it.
Yeah, yeah, but it was definitely one to seek out and watch. I'm surprised they haven't, like, brought it back, like, for, like, a home video release once he passed away, unless there's some weird
Nah.
rights issues to it, I don't
Yeah.
know.
I don't know.
But anyway, with this, it is Axe Edge, from Buxton Brewery, 6.8%. It says, "A refreshingly hoppy, grapefruity flagship IPA is named after a moor close to England's highest village and was once roamed by some pretty edgy characters, including counterfeiters, prize fighters, and hawkers." What is that? And
Hawkers?
maybe
Okay.
still is. Is hawkers like falconers? Do they walk around with, like,
I
hawks
was
on their
like, "What is a hawker? Are you hawking
right.
some wares? Are you actually
Oh, yeah, I
flying a
bet you're
hawk?"
right, yeah.
I don't know.
It's a slang. Maybe we have to reach out to our friend Matt from Yorkshire, and maybe
Yes,
he'll
there's a
know,
hawker.
what a hawker is, because it could be, like, a term that used out there, not here, but I like that. Like, what a weird group. Like, imagine that you're hanging out, like, "Hey, what do you do?" "I'm a counterfeiter. Want some money?" "What do you do?" "I'm a prize fighter. I just won." I mean, of course, they add that with a British accent, I guess, but
What was a
yeah,
guy
so it's
from
like it's some
Boston doing
I
in
know.
the
Why do I
UK?
have like all like the pugilists from the United States over there? But anyway, still kind of funny thing. But yeah, so that's our pairing. I think that works pretty well with this. So here's my fan topic food, Tim, for you. This one's gonna be opening kind of a thing. This doesn't have to be like as severe as it was in this film, but so if you found out like your so-called family business was something less than desirable, how would you handle it?
So I was thinking about this one, and I think, and I can only go by personal experience, but I think it wouldn't be a big deal for me to opt out of the family business, because my dad was in obviously in the context of this is like, the family business was like something shady or criminal or
Yeah.
something, but I'm putting this in like realistic terms. My dad was in the construction business, so he was always outdoors, roofing, building houses. He later in his career became a safety supervisor. Very hands-on, rugged, blue collar type work. I went the exact opposite direction. I'm total white collar, IT, computers, that kind of thing, office work. And so, I never felt the need to, not that it was a family business, and my dad obviously didn't own a construction business or anything, and there was never any expectation that I had to go into that field, but I never felt any pressure or anything to do anything other than I wanted to. It's probably because my parents just encouraged me to do whatever I wanted to do. There was no expectation that I had to be a doctor or a lawyer or anything other than
I
what
mean,
I
yeah,
was
that's like
interested
kind
in.
of an old school kind of like
Yeah,
mindset anyway, you
yeah.
know?
So, I feel like if they were into something shady, hopefully I would have the same morals I have now, and I think I would just be like, okay, yes, I don't agree with what my family's doing. They're still my family. I love them, but I'm not. I don't agree with this. This is not an interest of mine, and I'm going to go in my own direction, and that's the way I would go. Kind of like I did in real life. I just did my own thing as to what I wanted to do, and that's the way I'm raising my kids. Is I don't care what you do as long as you're happy doing it,
Yeah.
and we'll support you with whatever you're wanting to pursue as long as you're happy with it. So yeah, I guess I mean maybe a kind of a it's kind of a simple answer and maybe a little bit too simple, but I kind of feel like I would just kind of do my own thing and not be pressured into doing something I wasn't morally comfortable with.
Yeah, no, my answer is very similar, same way too, and it's like, like my dad was a lawyer, and while I thought it was cool as a kid because I'd use it like, oh, don't mess with me, my dad's a lawyer, I'm gonna sue you, kind of thing, and it's a running joke of like how like all that, but the funny thing is with all those things, I never had the desire. Like, I never said, "I wanna grow up and be a lawyer." Like, when I was a kid, there was a million different things I wanted to do? So it's like I was always thinking I wanted to do this versus that versus this. The one constant, though, is I still wanted to be involved in movies and TV somehow, and so, I guess in some way, I'm still doing that, and, even though it wasn't like, I don't make money off of it, and I spend money on it, I'm still involved in it in some way. But, and it's funny too because, like, my dad, the with the 3 sons that we had through, him, it's, because I have a brother from, my, stepdad. But those are one of them went his way. My brother Adam, went to the legal field, so he got one of his sons to go follow in his footsteps. Different kind of law, but still, it's the lawyer in the family. But, to me and the funny thing is to me is, like, he never, like, asked me, he goes, "You should go lawyer." He just wanted me to be success in whatever. So but, like, the funny thing is, I think they know too, if ever they get pushed too much pushing and too much pressure to do something, it turns me off so fast from it, even if it's something I might have liked.
Yeah,
Like, that's just the
yeah.
way I'm wired, where it's like, you could say like, "Oh," like, I'll be going like, "Oh, you know what? I think I wanna do this," and someone will go, "Oh, yeah, let's do this," and they'll just bombard me with too many things with it. Like, my brain just says, "Oh, okay, wait a minute. No, I can't handle this. Sorry. I can't handle it. I'm done. I don't wanna do it anymore." Because to me, like, once you start doing that and this could I'm not saying I'm perfect, so this could be a flaw in my personality, but, like, when I get that, like, I realize, like, "Oh, you know what? Now this is becoming too hard." And it's becoming not like work to me because and it's not like something I want to do anymore. It's too much like work now, and I don't want like granted, I know sometimes you have to do hard work to get success. So, and I tend to be lazy with certain things like that. But if I do things on my own and I push myself, I can do it. It's the stuff where people push me where it kind of turns me off. So the thing to me is I think, like, if let's say my family business, my like, we own, like, a hardware store in town or something, and I like, my dad, like, I worked there as a kid because, to help out, but the family is one thing, and he keeps saying, "Okay, I'm gonna train you to do this," and I didn't really like it, and he still kept doing it, doing it, doing it. I know right then and there, I'd be like, "No, I'm done. I'm done. I can't do it. You've already" taken away any kind of possible joy I would get out of this now, it's like and, that's that and I'm not saying I'm right 100% on that because sometimes, people just wants to do what's best for you. They don't mean to push you away from something, but I just know the way I am personally wired, it has to come from me. There has to be, and not that I won't ask for help or I don't appreciate someone helping me along that way. It's just it kind of has to be that kind of journey for me. Like I need the support, but not the push, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people. I mean, I think a lot of parents are maybe guilty of that because they want their kids to succeed so bad, and they think they're helping them, but in fact, they're possibly just smothering them to the point that they're going to rebel. I mean, there's every kid's got a little bit of a rebellious streak in them, right, against
Oh
their
yeah, yeah, yeah.
parents. So, yeah, I've seen that time and time again with parents that push too hard. The irony is sometimes they push so hard for some outcome that they want that they ensure that that outcome will never occur because the kid's going to rebel against it. Whereas if they had just been hands off and said, "Hey, do what you want. I'm going to be there to support you, whatever," the kid might have naturally fallen into line with what the parents wanted in the first place. But
Yeah.
they'll never know because I don't know. But I'm not saying I'm the perfect parent by any means. It's just everybody's got their own thing. But I have seen that happen in real life where the parents were so strict or so overbearing to control their child to the certain outcome that they achieved the exact opposite effect.
I was gonna say, I said, I don't wanna jinx you, but, as I spent many Julie and I have spent many times with you, Olivia, and the kids, in all kinds of setting, and we always say, like, "I don't know what Tim and Olivia are doing, but they're doing something right." Their kids are so, like, just smart, well-behaved, and, they know how to act in public, and that's like, you figure, like, "Well, that's not that hard," but no, it is because you see so many kids that don't act that way, It's like and, like, that's why, like, I remember that go back to that Universal time when, like, it was supposed to be the adults trip and you guys were so worried. You're like, "Well, can we bring that?" We're like, "Of course, who cares?" It's like, and we had the best time. They had the best time, and it was that's because they just, they just know how to act and they know and you could tell they have their interests and they pursue them, and you make sure that they have everything they need to pursue those. So, yeah. So if I mean, I know I'm not a parent myself, but I've seen it, tons of my friends are, so I can tell you that, and I'm not saying others are bad. I'm just saying you are, I can know you and Olivia are exceptional parents
Oh,
in my
thank you,
eyes, at
sir.
least. So,
I had a
and one oh, sorry, one quick thing to that and too about my dad. So it's like there was one time when I remember when I was, I was living, at that point I was just having my normal job and everything, and he found out I did that like that open mic night to get into comedy, and he was so impressed that I had the cures of that, so he basically, as a Christmas gift, bought me, like, a comedy class to take, like a
oh,
stand-up
that's
comedy class.
cool.
Yeah, so he set it up, and he, like, went behind the scenes and did all this stuff and set this up for me, and I was like, "Oh," and I had the best time. I actually bought it my, 2nd round myself because I enjoyed it so much. So, I mean, obviously, I did not pursue that as a career, but it helped me because it definitely broke my fear of public speaking out because you learn quick. You can't have that in stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
So, and that who knows if I would have ever done the podcast if it wasn't for that because even though, yes, I'm talking to you and like actually there's not a live audience per se, but I just don't have that fear of speaking in public anymore.
That's
So,
awesome. Yeah, I was gonna say when you're talking about the parenting stuff, I got some of the best, one of the best comments I ever heard. It was from a coworker of mine who's a great dad, and, somebody was asking about parenting or something, and he made this comment, and it really struck me, and he said, "They're just little people. That's all you gotta remember, they're just little people." And I think what his point was is they're little people with their own interests, their own desires, their own fears, and as long as you recognize that, they're not your property, you know, they're not some alien being, they're just little people that just haven't, matured yet, and if you treat them like little people, and understand that they have their own wants and their needs and their own fears, then it really helps you parent because, it's I don't know, it's I think it's treating them with respect, you're treating them as another person, whether they're 3 years old or they're 13 years old or 30 years old, everybody just wants to be treated with respect, right? So, I think that
yeah.
helps, when you parent if you're not treating them as property or as something beneath you or something, dumber than you or whatever if you kind of had this bias towards somebody that just hasn't matured yet, you just look at them as a person. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a neat piece of advice. I've always kept that in mind. Even when interacting with my kids, it's like, you don't have to treat them like a kid. They're 9 times out of 10, they're smarter than you give them credit for. And
Oh
they
yeah.
don't want to be treated like babies. And if you give them that opportunity to not be treated like a baby, you'll be amazed at what they can do on their own. So
Yeah, no,
anyway,
and that's why I noted because your kids were always seem so like more like just so much more mature than their age was. So, you know,
yeah, I
good
mean,
job, Tim.
everybody's does their own thing. I mean, everybody, kind of does their own thing. And what works for some kids doesn't work for others. So I'm definitely not saying that's the magic key to everything, but it worked for us. And I think I got a lot of that from my mom as well. She always said, I'm not gonna. Her kind of parenting was, I'm not gonna get strict and mad at you for doing the wrong thing. I'm going to raise you to the point where if you do the wrong thing, you're going to know you did the wrong thing, and you're going to know that you disappointed me. And that's going to be
Yeah,
on
see,
you.
that's a good way
Yeah.
to do it because you don't
Yeah.
want to have to yell at the kid for
No, I mean,
something, you know.
she knew that if we stepped out of line, we weren't afraid of punishment. We were upset that we knew we upset her. That was the key to it. And so there were things I would never do, not because I was afraid I'd get grounded. That's not a big deal. I was afraid I'd make my mom cry. That was a very big deal. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting to see different parenting perspectives and stuff. But that's kind of what I've based mine on is, raise them the best you can. You can't control everything. Just raise them the best you can. Hope that they make the right choices. Hope that they make the decisions that won't upset you, and hope that they have a good head on their shoulders so that when the time comes and they're going to get faced with those choices where they can either go down the right path or the wrong path, they choose the right path because they know that's what dad would want me to do,
Yeah.
not because that's why
No,
dad
that's
would
what
spank me.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know what
Or
I
like that's
mean?
what dad would force me to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would force me to do so. I don't know. Interesting. Weird, crazy how these off-topic just questions branch into these like deep philosophical
But
questions.
that's
But
the point. That was what our intention was, which I'm
yeah,
I'm glad it kind of went that way. It like literally goes. It's like a way to do like a little bit more, like share ourselves like in our views without like just saying today's TED Talk is going to be on it. Yeah, like it connects with the movie in a way. It's like a beer pairing. This is more like a life pairing.
a
Kind of
life
way to
pairing.
play it,
There you go.
you know.
Yeah, I
So
like it too because it lets us do an off-topic episode without doing an off-topic episode. Because
yes,
they
that's
always
another
end up
thing.
being off-topic, but I
Yeah.
think it's good for listeners to hear kind of where we're coming from a non-horror perspective. So yeah,
Yes.
it was fun. And we ended up getting right at an hour, so it wasn't as short an episode
Yep.
as we thought. So
I
that was
know.
good.
See what happens with my big mouth and a good idea. Combo just goes, you know.
We're making hour-long podcast episodes
Right,
already. We're a
right,
pretty
we're a
good
pretty
team.
good team, yeah. I'd say we need to make that's actually once I get the logo store up, I remember I always promised I was gonna do, like, our funny sayings on it. That's
Yeah.
what I need to put on. We're gonna say, "We're making" that should be the thing, it should be Civil War already. It said, "We're making a podcast already. We're a pretty good team." That
Yeah.
should be our shirt, one of our
That's
shirts.
it. We gotta do a shirt like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yes, we're doing that shirt.
All right, guys.
Okay,
So
cool.
we will see you back here next week. Brian, have safe travels and lots of
Thank
fun.
you.
And we will see you guys back here next week.
Yeah.